Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 129, and I sat down with Doc Downs. About 4 years ago, Doc was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and he came over and we talked about what it's been like living with the disease and what it was like to go from being a super active performing guy, dancer, musician person to having to deal with the pain and just getting through life every day. He's got a heck of an amazing attitude. He is lovely and happy and warm and open. And I really appreciate that he came in and talked to me about his experience with MS. As usual, there's links on heyhumanpodcast.com, and please check that out. You can reach me, Susan, at heyhumanpodcast.com. And also the usual stuff. Hey Human Podcast is on the social medias. My personal social media is Susan Ruthism. You can find me anywhere there. And if you shop Amazon, please do so through the Amazon portal on heyhumanpodcast.com. It helps support Hey Human. Rate and review Hey Human on iTunes and the various podcast apps, and I appreciate that as well. Okay, let's get into this, and thanks for listening. Here we go. Okay, Doc Downs. Welcome to Hey Human.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming over.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm really glad you were able to do it.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah.
Same with me.
So I've known you actually a really long time in the sense of how people in Nashville know each other.
I was trying to remember how long it was, and it was not coming to me.
I would say 12 years. That's how long I've lived here, and I think you were one of the first people I interact with in the sort of restaurant-y bar scenario.
Yeah, with the good old Flight.
Those were the days. I haven't been there in so long.
Yeah, it's been a while for me, too, and I get a massive discount there.
I bet. How long has it been open?
Let's see, it was...
So maybe that'll be a better timeline. I just assume everybody that I feel like I've known forever, I've known since I first got here.
Well, so
Would it be that old?
We opened in 2006.
I'm gonna No, it's not you. It's not you, it's me. No, I'm just fixing your mind. There. Okay.
October 2006, I think it was the 13th. So we just had... had an anniversary.
That's 12 years.
Yeah.
Look at me with the math.
Oh, I was told there would be no math.
Yes. Yeah. Every time I've gone there lately, it's been closed for a private event. So I've tried to go. Let it go on record. Are both the Scotts still there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. God. It's funny, you think about certain places, restaurants or bars or venues or whatever, and it really is a snapshot of a time frame.
Oh, yeah.
And the people I hung out with then that I don't really see anymore, or, it's the ebb and flow of life, but it is weird.
It's very odd.
To look at snapshots like that.
Looking back at it, everyone told us we were crazy for going into that spot at the time.
Yeah, look at it now.
And then suddenly we were considered geniuses for getting that spot before the rent went up.
I mean, is the property owned and outright? It's not rented?
By us? By Flight? No. It's still rented.
Yeah.
But the Scotts are still the guys running that place, and it's still going strong.
For those of you listening who don't know what we're talking about, in Nashville there is a restaurant and wine connoisseur, I would say, bar called Flight, F-L-Y-T-E. And, it's been around a good long time. And the Scotts, their first names are Scott. So that's why we call them the Scotts. And they are fantastic. And everyone there is fantastic. So
two of my oldest friends. Two of the first people I met when I moved here. It'll be 25 years next week. We came here off of a cruise ship that was coming out of Maine, me and my drummer at the time. Came down here in October of 93. I was a young
93.
23 years old.
Holy moly.
and I just turned 48 last week.
Wow, you look fantastic.
Oh,
I don't feel like you've aged. Your face looks... You look like you've slimmed down.
I have.
But
I have.
But you don't look really like... In fact, I would say your face looks younger, so...
Well, I'll tell you, a great way to lose weight is to get an incurable disease.
Yeah, that does... that does probably go into it. And we'll get there. We will get there. Now everyone's going, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
So you were on a cruise ship? I didn't know that about you.
I did a total of 26 months of my life on the sea.
Which cruise line? Can you say?
Several, actually.
As a band person or as a...
a lot of people don't know this. Those people who might be listening who actually know me from my musical days. My early musical days, I was a dancer-singer.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, I was... I would do theme parks and cruise ships and any place singing and dancing would take me. I did it. And
that's incredible.
I was a singer dancer. There was actually a wonderful comedian. I don't know if he's still working now or not, because this was 89, 90 at the time, named Happy Cole.
That's a great name.
Yeah, he was a good guy. Funny man. Worked with him on Carnival back in the day. And he used to sit out in the audience during our show. And when we got to the country section, which he knew I despised country, he would just sit out there and laugh. And I could see him out there just laughing his butt off at me doing country music because he knew how much I hated it. And I'm up there doing, playing me some country music. Semi, black, well, I guess more Cocoa Brown.
Yeah, you're Cocoa.
Kid from,
like a nice,
from rural northern
caramel
Illinois.
Or something.
A friend once called it Cocoa Foam. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to ponder on that. It's
We'll
funny.
think that about,
if I close my eyes and listen to you speaking, your voice timbre reminds me of Casey Kasem. Have you gotten that before?
I've never gotten that before. That's awesome.
What is Casey Kasem? What was he known for saying? He had like a catchphrase.
Oh boy. Well, you're talking to someone with holes in his brain.
Yeah, doing the top 40,
yeah.
Or, whatever his show is called. But there's something about the way the lilt of your voice reminds me of his. Huh. It's kind of cool. You could do some voiceover work. You could bring back. He could be the ghost of Casey Kasem.
He did the voice of Robin on Super Friends too.
I think I did know that.
Yeah, he was the man back in the day. You didn't listen to anybody else.
No.
For a top 10, for your top 40 list.
Right.
He was telling you what everyone was listening to back in the day.
That's it right there. You said it. It sounded like him to me. Where are you from originally?
Northern Illinois, a little tiny farm town called Mendota, surrounded by corn and Caucasians. We were literally the only black family in the town.
Seriously.
Went to school with a couple other black kids, but one was adopted by a white family, and the other was a foster child in a white family. We were the only black family.
How was that? How was that? How did that shape you?
It was interesting. To be completely honest, I really did not notice it until I got older and got into the dating age. That's when things changed. It was good and fine for me to be friends with the farmers' daughters, but when it came to dating, that was a different story. Fascinating.
Even though you're not a dark-skinned black person, you're a light-skinned person of color. I had Ruby Amanfu on the show in the very beginning. She was one of my first guests, and we had a long conversation. It was so awesome about the concept of saying black or white or the color tone of skin. And she said something so beautiful. She said, there's not a crayon that is my skin color. I am a crayon. I'm not. You can't put me in this box of one or the other. It was just a really cool way.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like
that's how I consider myself. I've always
So you could weed out the
unique.
It is an interesting thing that, like, you know, you're okay to just be around, but the minute the idea of you sleeping with or making out with their daughters, you could probably pick out the blonde girls who were mad at their father, right?
Oh yeah. The first time that it was just blatantly in my face, and this will actually, my best friend through most of my adult life from the time we were freshmen was a kid named Matt Beats.
Shout out Matt Beats.
Shout out to him. We lost him a few years back, but
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, but he was
double shout out then.
To give you an idea of how good of a friend this guy was, I was in a production of a chorus line at the time. We were seniors in high school, and he knew I was completely backward and nerdy when it came to the opposite sex back then. I couldn't even keep eye contact when talking to a girl. And Matthew knew this. So I was in this production, and he came to the last night, and so we were having a rap party and everything afterwards, so I invited he and his date to come to the rap party. Well, I ended up with his date by the end of the night. And he was fine with it. He was like, "Go, David," which is my real name. So, I mean, that's a testament to that guy. Just that's real friendship right there. But so I started dating this girl. And her father was a truck driver. And so he was out of town often. And he happened to be out of town when we started dating. We had gone out on a couple of dates, and about 2 weeks later, he was back in town. And I stopped by to pick her up for a movie, I think it was. I think we were going to see, I don't know, one of the Back to the Future movies, I think it was. And I walk in the front door, and he sees me, and he blew up. He started screaming at his wife, "How can you let my daughter go out with an N-word?" And I'm 17 years old, standing there, just going, "Okay, I'm just gonna leave if that's all right." So I mean, that was the area I grew up in. They're good people, but the only reason why we were accepted as much as we were was because our family was there for so long. My mother grew up there. Her father grew up there. Her father and his brothers, they came from, we just found out, West Virginia, which, Travis Slagle, if you're listening, I've got a big apology for you. I used to always make fun of you for being from West Virginia. But not being bright, well, I found out my family is. So we're from West Virginia, and they were some of the first landowners in Northern Illinois, black landowners in Northern Illinois. They lost a lot of it to gambling and owing people money from drinking too much and stuff like that. But we still own a few places up there in Mendota. But I think that's one of the main reasons why we were still so accepted there, was because we'd been there so long. Everyone knew us.
I'm curious, did the daughter of this man who yelled these things at you, did she go against her father? Did she continue to date you?
No.
No,
that was the end of that.
What was the ripple at school after something like that going down? How did the other kids react?
No, I don't think they ever knew about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't think they ever knew about it.
That's surprising, considering
I don't think they knew about a lot of the stuff. My mother is a very private person. It was for a friend to have been let into our house, they knew that my mom liked them because no one was allowed into our house.
Why is that?
She was just old-fashioned. She liked her privacy. She would go out and meet people at places, but home was home.
I can understand that, though, a feeling of sanctuary and, yeah.
And she still loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still there.
Do you have siblings?
Mm-hmm. I've got two big sisters, Christina and Diana. Absolutely wonderful.
Shout out. I'm going to just keep doing that.
Absolutely wonderful. I lucked out. A lot of people don't know about this about me, but I'm adopted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
My mother, to let you know how much I'm a part of my family, and that there's no doubt about it. I mean, my sisters are my sisters, and my ma is my ma. I think I was about 12 or so, and my mother had gotten off of the phone with my aunt, her little sister, who has a ridiculously talented son, Craig Taborn, who, if you haven't heard him play jazz, look up Craig Taborn. He's amazing.
Shout out Craig Taborn. I don't know why I've started doing this.
It's your new catchphrase.
That's why.
He's the same age as me. We're both 48, and she got off the phone with my aunt, and it looked like something was bothering her. And I remember one of my sisters asked her what was wrong, and she looked at me and she said, "David, for the life of me, I cannot remember being pregnant with you when Margie was pregnant with Craig." I had to remind her that I didn't come from her body.
Really?
I had to remind her. That's how much I'm my ma's.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah. She's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
Raised 3 kids on her own.
See, it makes sense to me that you have sisters and was raised by a strong female influence, because you have that thing that some men have that surrounding where you're just, there's a gentleness. It's not a lack of masculinity, but it's like there's a gentleness, a caring that sort of
That's nice to hear.
reverberates around you, you know?
That's nice to hear.
Probably why you make such a great, like the bartendery vibe, that you never felt creepy or weird, or, because some do, right? Some feel predatory, but you, I don't know. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah, good women are good to have around you. I mean, I'm old, so the hashtag stuff is still new to me. The hashtag Me Too movement and all of that. It's like, you're finally catching up. I knew about this. I mean, my mother's the strongest person I know. I wish I had her strength. The woman has been through some of the most difficult things you can imagine going through, and she's still laughing and smiling. A few years ago, she was having trouble with congestive heart failure. I was home for her 80th birthday. We had a great birthday party for her. Had a wonderful time. End of the day, I go back to the hotel. I'm supposed to be driving back to Nashville the next morning. I get into my car after checking out of the hotel. McDonald's is right next door, so I grab a breakfast there, and I call. I'm about to pick up the phone to call home to say, I'm going to head out on the road. And the phone starts ringing. It's my sister who lives with my mother, my oldest sister who lives with my mother now and helps take care of her. And she says, "Mom, she's out. She's in the ambulance. She's going to the hospital. She collapsed. She was completely out cold." So meet them out at the hospital. Turns out she had congestive heart failure. A few hours later, me, my 2 sisters, and my niece are all in the hospital room. and my mother, who just turned 80 the day before, comes to. And she looks around and sees us all standing there worried as can be. And she says, "I guess I shouldn't have gone to the after party."
Shout out, Mom.
I mean, that's the strength that woman has.
That's great.
She just loves life.
And she's still with us.
Still with us.
Wonderful.
Just turned 84 in August.
Way to go. That's awesome. Yeah, it's weird watching our parents get older. It's a strange, surreal thing, as it is, I think, seeing ourselves grow older. You look in the mirror and you think, wait, I'm sorry, who is this person looking at me? Because the person in my brain, Pan, is not identifying with the face looking back at me.
Yep.
It's very surreal.
It's very surreal. I mean, just
I went back to my old high school a couple of years ago and wandered the halls that seemed super institutionalizing. And everything was that weird yellowy, that off yellow that they paint in schools so often. And it feels imprisonating. It's a weird feeling. And I'm watching these kids go by and I'm thinking, are these all baby geniuses? They look 10. They all look 10 years old with very large breasts because the milk has the antibiotics or whatever, the hormones. What is going on? What is going on? But yeah, it's a weird thing. But it's part of, I guess it's part of the process.
I always enjoyed that. I like the nostalgia. I like it. I have found the wormhole of YouTube. And I have spent hours back to back watching things I used to avoid.
Like?
Back in the day. Hours on end of commercials from the 70s and 80s that I grew up with, that I hadn't seen in years. And it's just a wonderful wormhole to go down, you know? I mean, you forget what you've forgotten.
Yeah, that's great.
It's you go, oh my God, I remember that. And the weird thing is that I remember lyrics to the jingles. Those immediately came back to me.
Yeah, earworms. They were all written by Barry Manilow, probably.
Quite a few of them.
He wrote a lot.
Yeah, quite a few of them. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I like nostalgia.
So when I first met you, had you been diagnosed yet or not yet?
No, not at all.
You said something to me when you came in today to come over. You looked at my socks and you said, did you know I was OCD? And I said, no, I did not know that. My socks don't match. To me, though, that's way more fun. So it gives me a little giggle.
Well, you see, it's
one of my little life's happy places.
It's coming from someone who has a right sock and a left sock. I literally do.
Do you really?
Yeah. I have a right sock and a left sock.
That's so weird that you bring that up. You are the second person in 2 days that talked about a left sock, right sock. That's so bizarre to me.
Who's the other person? Because we're kindred spirits.
Well, it's a guy who apparently wasn't necessarily the brightest tool in the box, or however you want to say that.
It could be said about me too.
And they had the left and the right. It's just funny because I've never heard of the left sock, right sock. And that's twice in 2 days.
Yeah,
there must be something to it.
Well, I mean, socks wear in a certain way.
What kind of OCD do you have?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, what sort of things trigger it?
Well, it used to. I've gotten much better. When I was younger, like certain situations, perfect example is eggs. I wouldn't eat eggs unless I had eggs, butter, bread, ketchup, and either sausage or bacon.
You lost me at ketchup, but the rest of that just sounds like a delightful breakfast.
I'm a Midwestern northern Midwestern boy. We put ketchup on our eggs.
I'm a hot sauce. I guess I can't really say because I do the hot sauce.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't.
So you won't eat eggs, but is that more tasting or is that?
That was back then.
Okay.
Now I don't care. Jen, my wife Jen, who is...
Shout out Jen!
Is an amazing chef, amazing person. I mean, just... she is very good at making me try things and making me get past certain hang-ups I used to have. Mm-hmm. Love will do that. It'll make you want to do things. No. Which actually reminds me.
Self-loathing.
Actually reminds me. I tried to play matchmaker with you once.
You did?
Back when I was bartending.
I don't remember this. It probably went horribly.
It did. Yeah.
Who were you trying to match me with?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I should.
Let's not do that. I wish I could remember that.
How can
I don't remember giving birth to you, and I don't remember this date.
He was tall.
Okay.
He worked with me at the time.
Tall and worked with you at the time. It's not ringing a
And
bell.
I had no idea that he was a crazy person yet.
Oh, hooray.
I'll remind you of who it was after we're not
we don't want to shame
recording.
anyone.
Yeah, we
Shout
don't want
out
to shame
unknown
anyone.
soldier.
Shout out to you.
Shout out love that could have been.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at it with myself. I mean, it took me forever to find Jen.
Yeah.
And that was a situation that shouldn't have happened. I mean,
Was she
neither
mail
of us.
order or how'd you find her?
Her boyfriend actually was a big.
Her boyfriend.
Yeah.
There's a twist.
Yeah, her boyfriend was a big fan of my
Was it
band
Dave
at the time.
or your friend from childhood that was like...
No.
Yeah. What was his name again?
Matthew.
Matthew. You're David. He's Matthew. I don't know what I'm doing. Was it Matthew's girlfriend?
No. It was a guy named David as well, which is my real name. And he was a big fan of my band at the time, and he used to bring her.
So when I said,
shows.
was it David? It was David.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a psychic moment or
Psychic.
just confusing who everyone is in the room right now. Wow, so how did that all work out?
She hated us. She hated us. She did not talk to us whenever he would bring her around. He would come to most of our shows, and he'd come to the after parties and stuff and bring her along, and she would have nothing to do with us, because we were big-headed. I mean, we were up and coming, and we were popular. So
What was the band?
Dreaming in English.
Dreaming in English.
We were big in the mid-'90s. Oh boy.
Big in Japan.
Yeah, they loved us in Japan.
But you turned her around.
Well,
I feel like a lot of love stories start out with the people hating each other.
yeah.
It's funny.
Well, one day, I was...
Shout out to the Pretenders. It's a thin line between love and hate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Chrissy Hine. Good stuff right there.
Yeah, she's a babe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just one of the best rockers of all time.
Her bangs game is strong.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not a lot of women can get away with that,
No.
but yeah, she can. Saw her at Ryman a few years back, and she killed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely killed
She's
it.
a timeless kind of gal.
Yeah. I'm a little distraught, though, because I haven't seen her in a long time in person or on TV or anything recently, and I had a theory, and I'm afraid that it's going to come true because I haven't seen her in this period of time. I'm pretty sure that her and Tom Petty are the same person, and and he just likes to dress up and drag, or vice versa. She likes to dress up as a guy because
still drag, I think.
as they get older, I'm pretty sure they were just
morph.
the same person because they're both great rockers.
I could kind of see that, I guess. in a
And I
way.
haven't seen her since Tom died.
Yeah.
So I'm a little worried.
Shout out Tom Petty, huh?
Yeah.
God, I love Tom Petty.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right at all.
No, that was a real bummer.
Yeah. We've lost too many recently.
I agree.
Way too many. And they're the great ones. It isn't just like
I
good
know.
ones.
It's not the mediocres.
Yeah. It isn't like, oh yeah, they had some good hits. It's like, oh my God, we're not going to get any more out of that person?
I know it. Although I think Prince left behind an archive of...
Oh yeah, he left behind a lot of stuff. Maybe we'll finally get to see.
I think Petty may have some stuff too.
I'm sure he does. Yeah.
So
Yeah. When you're that kind of mind, you're just creating all the time.
yeah,
And only a small portion of it gets out to the public.
yeah. I mean that's probably true.
There's an entire documentary sitting on the shelf of one of Prince's tours that...
Yeah, he documented everything. Didn't he?
Yeah. Kevin Smith directed it, and it's just sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, I actually watched that interview. God, is that brilliant?
Oh, isn't it though?
It's hilarious
Is it
and
though?
brilliant.
Prince has lived in Prince world for so long he doesn't understand the word no. That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I watched that. I was like, holy crap, this is so good. I'll post it on heyhumanpodcast.com. I'm sure I can find it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, you definitely will. It's fantastic.
So good.
Fantastic.
All right, so when did you take us up to the moment where you get diagnosed? Like, how did you?
The MS.
Yes.
The MS. It was 4 years ago. I had eye pain in my right eye for about 3 days. And I just thought maybe I had hit myself in my sleep, or Jen had elbowed me in her sleep, or whatever.
She's like, I hate that band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little reminder.
So, didn't really think much of it. And on the third day, I was going to meet a friend. It was football playoffs season. I was going to go watch the playoffs at Mickey's. Shout out Mickey's. I got to do it that time.
Good job.
And driving down Gallatin, and my eye just went full blur. And it wasn't gradual. It was
Wow.
in a snap.
Sure.
It just went fully blurry. So ended up going over to a friend's house the next day, some close friends, to watch more football, and mentioned that, and they were like, dude, you got to go get that checked. That's your sight. You don't want to mess with that. So I go to the doctor the next day, and they do all the, put the dye in to see if there are any scratches and all that stuff. They can't find anything. So they refer me to an ophthalmologist. No, an optometrist. Yes, optometrist. So I call him. I explain what's happening. He's like, dude, you want an ophthalmologist. I'm just an optometrist. All we do is check what kind of glasses you need and prescribe that. You need someone who really knows.
Understands the optic nerve and all that stuff, yeah.
So I go to an ophthalmologist, and they're doing test after test, and they can see that the optic nerve is inflamed, but they can't figure out why. They don't know what's causing it. So went through several weeks of going back and forth there, till one day I happened to mention that it would get worse when I would get in and out of the shower. And so she was like, ooh, that sounds neurologic. I don't want to scare you, but that sounds like MS.
Is that a marker?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Jack Osborne. One of his eyes went completely blind. That's how he found out he had MS. So ended up going to a neurologist. That was a roller coaster ride of I've got MS, I don't have MS, I've got MS, I don't have MS. And finally it was a spinal tap, which...
Shout out Spinal Tap.
Yes.
That's so horrible.
No,
really
that's
don't.
awesome. The day I had to get my spinal tap done, I was working at a bar. And I had the spinal tap done on like a Friday or Saturday or something, and I had to work on that following Monday. And when I got to the bar, they were playing on the TVs in a loop.
The Scots?
Spinal Tap.
The Scots were?
No, actually, it was a different place that I was working at the time, but they were just playing the movie in a loop for me, so that was cool. Yeah. Which, honestly, is a better way of putting it.
Sure.
The clinical...
So, wait, before you... The heating up, that was what I meant as a marker, the heating you up, that's a...
Oh, yes.
Could you explain that for a second?
Well, first you got to explain what MS is.
Okay, all right.
MS is...
multiple sclerosis.
Yes, multiple sclerosis. Multiple for... any number of things can happen to your body, and sclerosis means degeneration.
That's a terrible combo.
Yeah. Every single person who has MS has a different version of it. Because what it does, it's your own nervous system being attacked by your own immune system.
So it's an autoimmune disease?
Yeah.
Jeez. And
what it's doing is, for those musicians out there, you'll get this. You got a guitar. I need some wiring done. All of my pots need cleaning, and my neck definitely needs some straightening. And I've got too many frets. So it's your wires are literally being stripped. The coating around your nerves it's called myelin, and that's being eaten away by your nervous system. So it's essentially exposing your body's wires.
So your immune system thinks that the myelin is bad. And
Apparently
it's some sort of glitch is triggered and it says, oh, we got to get rid of this.
Yep.
When in fact, don't get rid of that.
Yeah, it's not listening to me saying, no, that's not right. It's horrible. Yeah, it is. And it's so random. You never know what part of the nervous system it's going to attack.
So for you, it started the eyeball.
Yep. Well, it started before that. Looking back, I can see that I had the fatigue before that, and I had the fingers not listening to my brain before that, because I noticed that while playing. Being a bass player, I was going in the studio with this great artist named May Wen.
Shout out May Wen.
There we go.
Wait, May Wen? May now. That was the worst joke of the day.
Yeah.
Because I bet, is it a she?
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like a she.
Yeah.
I'm guessing she's never heard that joke before, ever.
I don't know. Probably the same as I probably haven't heard What's Up, Doc.
What's Up, Doc, yes.
So it strips your wiring, and the body's wiring works the same way as any other wiring does. In heat and humidity, it misfires. It's got more conductivity in heat and humidity.
That's fascinating.
So it misfires.
So does that mean, may seem like the dumbest question on the planet, but now you've got me curious. If there's a lightning storm, are you more of a conduit for a lightning strike than a normal person?
I don't think so.
I'm just curious. Hold on a second.
I don't think so.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Because if you think, so we are electricity.
Yeah.
Right? We are just a conduit. The water in our body, it's keeping our electrical impulses going. So if yours are hypersensitive, I'm gonna have to Google that later because I'm curious. It seems like a random thing, but it would seem like you would become almost your own lightning rod.
That's kind of cool, actually. I kind of like that idea.
Only if you want really.
Would that give you superpowers?
Maybe.
Because I really like that.
It may mean you should start wearing rubber boots.
Oh.
All right, so moving on. I am just curious. So that is I don't know why that made me think of that. I'm to ask somebody.
Yeah, so that's MS, and you just.
So you went in, and they're like, this could be neurological, and you went, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, and.
I'm sorry, May when?
So, it was. It was a long time. I mean, it was January when my eye freaked out, and it was April when they finally had the diagnosis of MS. And it was, the point I was going to make before, spinal tap. That used to scare me. And folks...
I've had one. It sucks.
It sucks. But it isn't the horror story that it used to be. Don't get the screen. If they ask you if you want to watch, say no. I watched. You don't want to see a needle going into your spine. It's just weird.
Not only that, but the needle is about 80 feet long.
Yeah.
They actually start from the other room. It's so disturbing.
And the word spinal tap used to freak me out when it came to that. But I'll tell you what, I'll take that over the clinical term for it. Lumbar puncture.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'll take a tap over a puncture any day.
Yeah, I think that's probably where the PR firm went, let's get that spun a different direction.
Yeah, tap is much nicer than puncture.
Yeah.
Puncture is just frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the phrase, I want to tap that ass. When you say I want to puncture that ass, I feel like that wouldn't get as big as a line out the door,
Oh, that's wrong. That's terribly wrong. I want to puncture that ass. Yeah, that's...
I mean, for...
You have bodies buried out back if you want to puncture an ass.
Maybe. If you're an adult, a consenting adult, it's fine. So, how was the news delivered to you?
Oh, By phone, actually.
Wow, they didn't do it in person?
No.
Ooh.
Got a call from the neurologist. And before that, I knew something wasn't right, because before that, it was always the nurse's assistant or whatever calling.
And was it 4 months from the ophthalmologist to the spinal tap, or there are a bunch of tests?
Yeah, there are a bunch of tests.
Yep.
Yeah. So many tests. So many tests. So many MRIs.
Like hand-eye coordination things.
Yep.
All that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
But the MRI can't see it?
Well, the MRI is supposed to find the lesions, which is
in
essentially
the brain or on the spinal cord.
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And mine are very small, but the places that they showed up apparently are very messed up. Like one of them is right at the base of
the brainstem.
Where the brain connects to the spinal cord.
Right.
So that means it's going to affect everything going through there.
Yeah.
So I never know what's going to freak out.
So is a lesion like a scab, or is it more like a hole? Or
it's more like scar tissue.
Okay.
It's scar tissue. So it's essentially like, with the nerves that have had the myelin stripped away, scar tissue takes the place of the myelin, and it's sort of like putting a piece of gum on something to fix it. It's still got a covering there, but it doesn't do the job it's supposed to.
So when your brain is sending impulse for you to operate your system, is it finding new directions to go, or is it just sort of ramming through the
I imagine sometimes it's just going off into dead space.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just isn't getting where it's supposed to go.
And that's why things like your fingers weren't working correctly. And
yep.
It is. I interviewed a neuroscientist. I went up to Minneapolis, and it was incredible. He brought me into the lab, and then I went into the brain lab, and I was able to hold a human brain that nobody was using at the time, and
that's good.
Yeah, and see the brain stem, and then see all the whole spinal, the whole spinal, the
pathway.
Yeah, the whole thing. My God.
It's immense.
It's something to behold as well. It really humbles you. First of all, that somebody was kind enough to allow students to come in and study their bits and pieces after they have left their mortal coil. But it's really something to look at. I mean, it really looks like a miracle. It's an intricate, almost unfathomable thing to behold. Like
it's an amazing machine.
How does it? How? It seems impossible.
It's one of the most intricate machines in existence.
If not the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Shout out to the brain.
Yeah.
The brainstem and the spinal column. So, how do you take news like that in that moment? I imagine it's out of body experience.
Yeah, you're scared as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, MS is there's not a lot of info on it.
Sure.
So when you get that news, the first thing you think of are all the pictures you've seen, and of people in wheelchairs or in those double crutches that have the arm things on them. And
I go to the Jerry Lewis telethon thing because I think of that, and then I think of Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Those are the two images that pop in my head when I think of it.
Well, it's the disease. The disease is so. There's so little known about MS, to the point where those pamphlets that you get when you're going to be getting a new. Of course, people who have never had to get like major prescription medications don't know this, but you always get a pamphlet that tells you about the drug you're about to start taking. And
those are the pamphlets where the first page is what the drug does that it's supposed to, and the other 300 pages are all the things that they don't like that it does, but it also does.
Exactly. With the MS drugs, and I've talked to a lot of people online and everything, other MS patients, pretty much every MS drug the pamphlet starts out this way. We're not really sure how fill in the blank works on MS. We just know that it does.
Wow.
So that's your introduction to fighting MS is we're not sure how it's working. We just know that it does work with people.
Well, it's going to be so wacky, too, if you're a doctor and a researcher, that's trying to figure this out, and you've got something that's presenting 100 different ways.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to fight a dragon with, 100 heads?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what MS is. I'm on the social things a lot. I've got a blog that I write following my MS
And
journey.
it is called?
MSFMS. My story fighting multiple sclerosis. And if you just look up MSFMS, it'll take you there.
I'll put links. I put links.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Here's a wonderful experience with MS. You can be saying something that you're completely into, and it can be gone. Just like that. I have completely forgotten what I was just talking about.
Your blog journey. And you were talking about how you spend a lot of time on the forums.
Oh,
and I assume
yes.
it's probably about the different ways to treat it versus...
Every single person has a different story.
Yeah.
Because it hit their legs first, where suddenly they woke up one morning and their legs just wouldn't work. Or like me, they had a vision issue where it attacked the optic nerve first, and they went blind, and I are both sometimes.
My friend who is a dancer, Banning, she lives here in town, and she has it. She's diagnosed. She woke up one morning and couldn't feel her legs. Just one day she was dancing, the next day she couldn't feel her legs. That is a cruel disease.
It's frightening. And the other thing that makes it so cruel, MS has a nickname. It's called the invisible disease. Because, I mean, look at me.
Yeah, you look
I
great.
look fine.
Handsome man.
I look fine. Well, I don't know about handsome, but
Shout out
I look
genetics.
okay. Shout out the genetics, yes. Black don't crack. Yet, every single day, getting up and doing just the normal things are difficult for me. My wife started a new job, and normally I would, on the last day, go out and celebrate with her. But I knew that if I did, I might not have the energy to be here. So, you've got to plan ahead. You've got to hope for the best. Every single time anyone says, hey, you want to go do this? You pretty much have to say, well, I'm going to have to wait and see how I feel that day. Because I don't know.
And you have a cane now, and
yeah.
Is that a new development?
It's needed off and on, depending on what's happening. Right now we're going through temperature changes. So that's really messing. The cane is interesting because every day it's okay, which side am I going to use it on? Because I'm sure like people at work and stuff are like, didn't he have that cane on the other side last week? Because on my right side, you can't see this who are listening, but here you can. I've got the brace on. That's because I've got arthritis in that ankle. Left side, my leg is partially numb from the top of my foot up the left side. So it's like, okay, which side is going to be better today? Which side do I need the cane less on today? And each day is different. Sometimes both are just fine.
How does you, as a dancing person and a performing person, someone who has historically had absolute control over your body, how do you come to terms with suddenly being under the influence of this other thing that you have no control of.
Distraction.
You just do, yeah.
Distraction. I watch a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I don't watch those shows like This Is Us and that new one that just came out about the friend who committed suicide, because that's how I lost my best friend, so I don't want to watch that. I mean, I get enough of that in my life.
Sure.
In my entertainment, I go for space stuff and superheroes and action movies. Stuff that I don't see in everyday life. Stuff that makes me forget about the difficulties of everyday life. And that's honestly how I deal with it. And humor. I make fun of it. That's how I deal with stuff. I don't think there's anything that is too horrible to joke about. I joke about everything.
Is it a deadly disease, or is it a disease that is just degenerative and therefore, but you died the way you would die no matter what? I mean, we're all dying, obviously. Well, I could walk out of here, get hit by a car,
exactly.
And you outlive me. Yeah. So we know that. But
exactly.
Is it something that will slowly undermine
sooner
you?
or later, it's going to, if I live long enough, sooner or later, it will take, motor functions away from me, which, depending on what part of the nervous system it attacks, it may just be physical motion, you have to start using a wheelchair or whatever, to the body parts just not working. The stuff that keeps you alive can just stop working because it isn't getting the messages from the brain anymore. So yeah, it can be deadly. It can just make you have to deal with normal life a little more difficultly. You just never know. You just never know what it's going to do to you. It can completely wreck your life in a couple of years, or you can have a pretty much normal life for 40, 50 years from the time you're diagnosed. You just never know.
And for some, it goes into a remission.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's a woman in town who I swear by. Her name is Annie Waugh, and she's done work with MS people. I'll have to give you her info.
The name sounds familiar.
She's a genius.
The name sounds familiar.
She's tapped into something, for sure. But, how long ago did you get married? How long have you been married?
Technically, by law, we're not.
Okay.
We've been together for 18 years. We've been engaged for 13 of those years. Mm-hmm. I wear a ring. She wears a ring. I call her my wife. She calls me her husband. As far as I'm concerned, we're married. I mean, she's...
Well, I think... Is this a common law state?
No, it isn't.
Oh, interesting.
It isn't. Otherwise, we would be common law. Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you were diagnosed 4 years ago, that has nothing to do with why you are or not married. That's a different choice altogether.
Completely. Yeah.
So, you can't speak for her, obviously, but have you had some of those conversations? Of course you have. For a partnership, when a disease like this is introduced, it's got to really have some deep, important conversations.
It's difficult, and she actually, Jen, my wife is a ridiculously talented person. She doesn't know how to do anything half-assed. She goes in head first with everything, and she's an amazing writer. And she wrote, I had her do a guest spot on my blog once, and she called it the invisible person behind the invisible disease. And when the disease hits a person and they've got someone that they're in a relationship with, that person who are in the relationship sort of automatically ends up taking a back seat. Because it's that person who has the disease and that person they don't realize that other person is dealing with this disease just as much, because you're so much of a part of each other's lives there's no way of separating from it, except for by choice of breaking up. So, I mean, this is a person who not only is dealing with all of the stuff I'm dealing with, but she's doing it as a choice. She's doing it as a choice. And people need to remember that there's another person involved when there's someone who has the disease and they're in a relationship. Because that person is quite often going through even more. Because when I got the diagnosis, it was just like, well, okay, that's that. I've got this now. I've got to deal with it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have to deal with this. This is a part of my life now. This is someone who has made a conscious choice to stay with someone who is going to have to deal with a lot of rough stuff coming up. And Jen has been amazing at it. We've had our rough spots. I think everyone does. That's human. But boy, I'll tell you what. I couldn't ask for anyone better to do it, because she's gone through a lot in her own life, and to have her care about me enough to be sticking around through all these doctor visits and the cost of fighting a disease like this is amazing. If you're lucky enough to have someone like that around you when this happens, man, cheer.
Yeah.
Cheer, because you're lucky.
Do you have health insurance?
I do now. I didn't when I got the diagnosis. And
how did you find insurance that covered something that was diagnosed, and then you had to say, oh?
What they call Obamacare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The
ACA?
Yeah. I'm not on it anymore. I have my insurance through work now. Actually, both mine and Jen's insurance through my work. But at the time, I was a bartender and musician.
Yeah.
I didn't have insurance. And if it wasn't for that program, I would have been screwed.
What are we talking price of meds for somebody that has this disease? I'm sure it's different because it always presents differently, but...
The first med I was on was one called Aubagio, and if you were to pay for it out of pocket, it would have been $6,500 a month.
Holy shit.
30 days supply.
Aubagio? It sounds like a Cirque du Soleil performance.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, yeah. What I'm on now
terrible acrobats, though.
is even more expensive. 7,000
a month.
Over 7,000 a month for 30-day
It seems
supply.
Is that because there's still research going into it? I mean, that seems highway robbery.
No, it doesn't cost that
to make it.
It doesn't cost that in the rest of the world. It costs that in the United States.
Do you? I don't know if you can. Do you get it for your meds from Canada and stuff, or?
No, I've got very good insurance now through my work, and one of the huge things that a lot of people probably don't know about, a lot of these companies that create the drugs understand what's happening with the cost situation. They look at you can contact a lot of them, like both Gilenya, the one I'm on now, and Aubagio. I don't pay anything out of pocket for. My insurance pays for what it pays for, and they just
absorb the rest.
Because even with my insurance, I don't know what it would have been now because it just automatically took over.
Yeah.
But when I first got the diagnosis and got my first insurance before my neurologist, which thank you to her, she was the one who signed me up for it and
shout out,
got me noticed by that.
What's her name?
Christine Dong, Dr. Christine Dong. She was wonderful.
Shout out, Dr. Dong.
I would have still owed over $500 a month for my meds, and I couldn't afford that. There was no way. I mean, most people can't afford $500 a month for something that doesn't involve where you live or what you drive. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that it costs so much money just to stay alive. It really is. But definitely, those of you who don't know about it, if you need help, a lot of the companies understand that you need help. So go out there, call them, say, I can't afford this. This is what I'm supposed to be on, but I can't afford it. Most of them will work for you.
That's good to know.
Work with you, yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah. 4 years ago, it's not very long.
Mm-mm.
The journey so far, emotionally for you, up and down, or have you is there a peace with it now, or is it just day to day?
No, I just recently started antidepressants for the first time in my life. It's difficult.
Do you go to therapy? Do you talk to, is that provided or anything?
I go to a survivors of suicide loss group Tuesday nights, which is good. The best friend that I talked about took his own life 5 years ago, and that has been my release, because you can these people get it. These people get it. They know depression, whether it be themselves or the person they lost, because a lot of times the people who lose someone to depression are dealing with it as well. So I'm able to get a lot out there, but it's still, MS has a high percentage of people who deal with depression. It affects your brain. It directly affects your brain, and it affects the way you think, and the way you look at things, and the way you do things. And sometimes medication is what's needed to try to even that out. So I'm giving that a shot for the first time in my life. Mm-hmm. And it's been an interesting ride as well.
Yeah, because not all depressive medications work for everyone too. There's all that as well. Are you able to exercise and be athletic, or is that...
I'm able to.
Swimming, or...
I can.
But you don't? Okay.
I'm bad at that. My wife is still gets on me. I need to be more active. Mm-hmm. But it's very difficult to get yourself to be more active when you've never had to be. Mm. I've been like this thin,
well,
not
you were very
trying
active.
to be.
Dancing, and moving around, and
I've always had a high metabolism.
And
I could always eat
jobs,
anything.
Constantly moving, and all that.
And so I hover around 130, 135 at 5'7", 5'8", I think I am, somewhere around there.
Oh, you seem taller.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 6 foot.
That's cool.
You seem much taller. It just, again, speaks to your personality, your presence. I do believe that. I think that there are short people who are very tall and tall people who are very short.
Oh, yeah.
So...
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's an energetic thing as much as anything else.
I agree with that.
So, are you able to stop its progression, or there's no telling? Okay.
There's no stopping it right now. No one's figured out a way to stop it. Mm. They can only slow it down. Mm-hmm. There's no cure for MS at this point.
Is this something that you've had then the whole time, and it's been slowly progressing, or did they think it was triggered 4 years ago? They don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're really not sure what causes it.
To not even be able to.
They're not sure what causes it. They don't know if it's hereditary. They don't know if it's environmental. They really have no idea. Mm. It's
Yeah, you said you grew up around cornfields, maybe all that Roundup or something. I mean, who knows, right?
Oh, yeah. I grew up in the middle of cornfields.
Yeah. Is your diet much more clean now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had gotten up to just short of 170 pounds before the diagnosis, and changed my diet, and went from, let's see, I think it was at 168, and that was April when I got my diagnosis, and by October, I think I was down to 140. And then came down a little more from there, and now I just hover between 130 and 135. I eat a lot better. I eat a lot more greens, which I don't enjoy. I don't like them at all. I like meat. But, you got to make concessions.
Sure.
You don't want to live your whole life depriving yourself of the stuff you love. But you don't want to kill yourself too early before something cool happens,
That's right. That's right. So what do you do now for work?
I work at a email marketing company.
Is it Emma?
Yeah, it is.
That's a good company.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. It's a very good company.
Founded in Nashville?
Yeah.
I thought that was.
It is a Nashville original.
And one of the Scotts worked there.
Scott Sears did. Yeah. He's the one who got me in there.
Oh, nice.
When I realized I couldn't bartend anymore.
Sure.
He got my foot in the door, and I've been there for 2 years now.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah, Scott saved my life. I mean, he really did. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah. And I imagine Emma has good health insurance.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do, and it's just
shout out Emma. I know a lot of people really love it there.
It's a wonderful place to work.
Yeah.
It is an absolutely wonderful place to work. I love the people I work with. It's if you're going to be getting your first office job at the age of 46, and you did what I did for most of my life, being a musician and working behind a bar, Emma's a great place to get an office job because they're good people. They're also young. I feel very old working there, but they're such good people. A lot of laughter goes on in that office.
Good.
A lot of laughter.
Yeah, that's good. I think laughter is also its own good medicine. As they say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's what gets me through.
So what are some resources that maybe people could dig into if they loved ones, or maybe they think, oh my gosh, I've got some of these things and I don't know what they are? Now, are you, just out of curiosity, are you a normal, like something is wrong and you go to the doctor before the diagnosis, where you're like, oh, something's wrong? Because you said your friends were like, go to the doctor. Would you have not? Yeah. I think there's a real fear behind going to get diagnoses because then you have to deal with that. Yeah,
exactly.
But I'm, to be honest, never really understood that logic because it's just going to be worse otherwise.
Yeah. Well,
I remember back in high school in health class, and they showed us pictures of some really insane things growing on nether regions, and like to the point of like huge.
I remember those. Yeah.
And I remember back then even going like, why would you let it get that far?
It's very easy to when you think about it, because you just go, oh,
I just don't.
Well, that'll go away sooner or later, won't it?
Yeah.
And when it doesn't, that's when you go to the doctor, and then it's something huge by then.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah, I mean.
My dad had a pacemaker put in. He had been having problems with our family genetically. I mean, like very low resting heart rates, very low blood pressure, all this stuff. And it just wasn't performing optimally. So they said, okay, we're going to do this and just regulate your heart. So he went in and had the procedure and came home. Everything was hunky-dory. And I was on the phone with him when he got back. This is the next day. And I said, how are you feeling, Dad? He's like, I think I have a bit of a cold. I said, yeah, you sound a little short of breath. What's going on? He's like, I'm sure it's just a cold. I said, Dad, you just had a pacemaker put in. Could you please go back and say, I'm a little short of breath? He's like, no, it's ridiculous. It's just a cold. And I said, you are doing this. I'm not taking no for an answer. If I have to get on a plane and fly back to Seattle and take you myself, I will. Damn it. So he acquiesced and went in, and it turned out that they had accidentally nicked his lung. And he had a collapsed lung.
Good Lord.
So, I mean, this is shout out to all of you out there who don't go to the doctor when there's something clearly wrong. Please do. Please do. Please don't wait.
Yeah, not going doesn't change whether or not you have it.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it may, in fact, help you survive.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, doctors are there for a reason, and
I
do take out my own splinters. But I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
I just having grown up poor, and as a kid, we never really, we only had a very short time where we were really, as kids, we saw that we were struggling. There was a very short time of that. My mom was very good at not letting us feel that. We almost always had what we needed.
But
we didn't always have
mom.
Yeah. We didn't always have what we wanted, though. And I like getting stuff that I want. I like that a lot. And,
youngest child figures.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I admit that.
So she adopted as a single mom?
No, at the time, she was still with my dad.
Oh, okay.
He took off when I was 5.
Okay, got it.
Saw him once since then. He died a couple years ago now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I got to be honest. It really did not affect me. He was so not a part of who I am that it was like, oh. And it was a weird situation. We found out from Mutual of Omaha letting us know we had settlements coming to us 6 months after he was dead.
You mean insurance?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Life insurance policy.
Yep. He had been dead for 6 months when, well, I mean, I'm his adopted son, whatever. But my sisters are his blood. And they found out the same time I did.
Yeah.
I mean, that his new family apparently just didn't feel like his daughters and son needed to know he was dead when he died.
Whoa.
They didn't contact us at all.
Out?
The insurance is how we found out 6 months after the fact. He had been dead for 6 months when his kids found out.
Interesting.
Yeah. They didn't bother to contact us.
That's cold.
His side of the family didn't bother.
No shout out to them.
No shout out. Negative shout out. Shout in.
Shout in. The fact that you are adopted, does that make you wonder about birth parents for just health, or have you ever, even before diagnosis, did you want to find out or?
Well, actually, there's another story there. I was living out in L.A. at the time, and me and my roommate were both managing it at the same movie theater. And we got home from the movie theater. Both of us are adopted. And it was about 2:30 in the morning by the time we had gotten home after closing the movie theater. And check our mail, and there's this little envelope in there. And it's from my birth mother. First thing it says is, hello, I believe it's been a long time since I've seen you. To be exact, October 15th, 1970, Toledo, Ohio, Toledo Hospital. And my knees buckled. So I was 21 at the time. Called her. A couple days later, she had left a number in the card she sent me. And talked to her for about 30, 40 minutes. Found out some things about myself that were interesting. Like, my family are homebodies. They like staying close to home and are comfortable with that. And I've always been an extrovert. I had to get out and started performing. Well, there's performance in the blood history. The woman that gave birth to me ended up having 2 sons in a marriage later, and both got into the entertainment business. One was an aspiring comedian, the other was a musician. So found out some things, but when I told my mom about it, it upset her. It upset her a lot. She had the feeling of, I've done all the work, and now this person wants to reap the benefits of it. And so I haven't had any contact since, and that was 1991, I think it was.
Are there any regrets around that? Or?
I gotta be honest, I'm really not that interested in meeting her.
What about your brothers?
Well, they're not my brothers, but they could be good friends.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, I imagine we could have a lot in common that we could talk about, and that's the one thing I would be interested in, especially after growing up as the youngest with two big sisters, thinking that it could, if things would have swung differently, I would have been the oldest of three boys. I mean,
did they know, though? Did you let her know or about the diagnosis? Because I would think genetically that might be...
No, I don't even know how to contact her anymore. I have no idea. I cut all ties, because my ma is my ma.
No, I understand.
And when I realized how upset it made her, it was like, well, I don't need to pursue this anymore then.
Can MS be detected before the symptoms show up?
It can be, if you want to get an MRI on a regular basis.
Oh, is that what it would take?
Yeah, I mean,
you have
really...
to spot the lesion?
Yeah, the lesions are usually what give it away.
The blood chemistry doesn't change, or there's not a marker that way like cancer.
The only other marker I know of is in the spinal fluid. There may be others, but I mean that's how they found out for me, was in the spinal fluid. So as far as I know, the only two ways of definitively categorizing it as MS is spinal fluid or
MRI.
MRIs. Thank you. Couldn't think of that.
It's okay.
I've had dozens of them in the past few years, and I still couldn't remember what it was called.
If it makes you feel any better, I have those kind of brain farts, is what I call them. So I think that's actually just part of being human as well.
It is a part of being human, but it's on a completely different level.
Yeah, I understand.
It's like, my train of thought used to, get off track. Now it completely derails. You can't even find the track anymore.
Does THC help?
Yes, it does. That mainly helps with the tremors.
Yeah.
I shake like crazy sometimes, and it sometimes is the only thing that will keep me from it. I mean, this you can see right now.
Your hands.
That's calm.
Okay. And it's moving pretty rapidly.
Yeah, and that's very calm.
Yeah.
I've tossed food on people by accident because of you'll have these nerve
Spikes.
twitches. Yeah. And you'll just have these spasms. Sometimes you end up knocking stuff off a table. Sometimes it wakes you up in the middle of the night tossing your body. I've literally had my entire right side have a spasm that tossed me over towards my wife in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird it's a completely frustrating situation when you realize you no longer have control of your own body. When you do things that you can't stop your body from doing. It's frustrating, especially when your entire life was about having control over your body. I'm at a complete loss at this point. I never had a plan for this time in my life. I never planned on living this long, first of all.
Why not?
I thought I was going to die young, leave a pretty corpse, I was a musician.
You mean rock and roll?
Yeah, I was a musician.
Did you do drugs and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
You betcha. I did the full gamut. It's amazing I survived.
Like the cocaine and the...
I did it all.
Yeah.
I did it all. Well, not at all. I didn't do the heroin. I didn't do anything that involved needles. Didn't want to do that. But I tried. I tried a good number of them.
Sure.
This will be news to a lot of people who listen to this. Acid was my favorite.
Yeah, I did a lot of LSD when I was about 15.
Yeah?
Yeah, I loved it.
I waited
The
till
last
much
time I
later
did
in
it,
my
I was
life.
18. Yeah.
I didn't even try it for the first time till I was in my mid-20s. And I loved it.
Yeah, don't do drugs, kids.
Don't do drugs.
But I loved it.
Well,
Last time I did it, I was 18. It's been a minute, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's been since my 20s. It was just, reality bored me. And it made normal interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made
reality.
normal interesting.
Sure.
I remember one time just sitting and feeling a Zippo for like 20 minutes because it just felt like liquid metal and it was awesome. It was just awesome.
And then you came down and realized you were humping a fire hydrant.
Wait a second. That sounds a little specific, Susan.
No, I never did that. I did have a very long conversation with a moth named Taji Ma. That was cool. That was one of my highlights. I only had one bad trip, and I was madly in love with this guy, Peter Monks. I don't know if I should use his full name, so I'll just call him Peter. Anyway, and we were all up at my family cabin. It was just this, rundown shack type. It was a great place. I loved it. And very rurally in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. And, excuse me, my friend Jessica ended up hooking up with him that night. And I, like you were talking about with the girls, that's how I was with the boys. I'm not that much better yet. I still am working on my game. But I remember she turned into a snake and slithered into the room he was sleeping in. And I was like, and I was like, this is not good. So I went and sat in my car and, because I was about, 16 or 17. So maybe I did it longer than I thought I did. Anyway, moving on. Because I was in the car. Was it my car? I don't know. It really doesn't matter for the story. But I realized that I was about to go down a dark space. And I have really decent control of my brain for the most part. And so I just was like, okay, this isn't going to happen. And I self-regulated back to normal and understood what was happening. But man... So, Doc, if people want to keep track of you, please repeat the name of your blog again.
MSFMS. My story fighting multiple sclerosis.
Well, yeah. Okay, I'll put links to it. It'll make people
that'd be
be
awesome.
able to find it easily.
Awesome. It's I try to be as honest as I possibly can on it. Okay. It's I pretty much take my skin off and lay it out there, much to the chagrin of Jen sometimes, because she's a big part of my life, so she's a part of my stories.
Sure. Sometimes,
and I'm much more open and forward than she is. She's much more like my mom, very private, and likes to keep things close to the vest.
Yeah. Doc, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been a really wonderful conversation about a really horrible thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. MS is horrible, and people need to know more about it because it affects a lot of people. If you bring it up in conversation while you're out sometime, you'll probably be surprised how many people you know who it's touched.
Yeah, I haven't looked up the statistics for it, but I know that autoimmune disease is pretty rampant, so...
It is, yeah. So, ask your friends. Ask your friends about MS if they know about it.
Yeah, there's in my circle, there's a little handful. So, I mean, I know it's...
Most
and it is
people
one of those things where one day it's nothing,
someone.
And the next day, suddenly they had MS.
Yep,
so.
And it's a wild ride.
Well, I wish you... pain-free longevity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and
Oh, thanks for having me. I don't get to talk to people as much as I used to, so I really enjoy it.
Well, I enjoyed it too. Thank you for listening, everybody.